Good evening, and welcome to Conversations. Tonight there will be a small reversal in our host and our guests. Tonight I shall be playing the host. My name is Margaret Borges, and I shall be interviewing our usual host, Mr. Harold Channer.
Yeah.
Mr. Channer has been a long friend of mine, many years. And I have followed his career maybe about a third of the years that he has been in film. Mr. Channer, how many years have you been in film?
I think it's about 40, isn't it? I think it's about that. It is since whenever there was a first camera out. So it went way back. What is the year now? I don't even know. I lose track of the years now.
This is the year 2020.
So it would have been 1930, 1940? No, 1935 or something I got started, I think.
No, 1935 you were born.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I was born. Well, that is the start of a sort, but I haven't kept track of it. I got about 4,000 programs I've done, hour long, but I don't know just when I got started. When did I first get started? That's a
Harold, that's one thing I want to
my brain. I can't remember. Yeah.
That's one thing I want to explore with you in this hour we have to share.
Okay.
And that is, when did you get into film, and also what led you there? Because it wasn't your first choice of careers, and you came upon it abruptly, I understand you're telling me.
Right.
And that perhaps you could share with us how that passion developed.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So that you actually went 180 degrees from what you had done before as a professor, and then to a follower of men and women in their own lives via the camera.
Yeah, that's all very well said. I might just say, well, I was born in 1935, so I'm 85 years old and everything. And out of Detroit, a great family. I'm an intellectual. I've been interested in things intellectually, of what's going on with the human condition since, we used to talk about it around the table at our house. It was an intellectually encouraging environment that we were in. But as for television or anything, there wasn't any. When I was young, there was no television at all. They hadn't even been invented, as far as I know. And so it was radio. I remember radio, and I can remember listening to the Mummers Cave and Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy, when I was 10 or 12 at the home. And then also, in terms of influences and so forth, I had two elder sisters that were very wonderful, and a great mother and dad, both. And then we had a lady who took care of us, sort of Betty Miller, who took care of us as we were the children. And it was a very privileged, not necessarily like a great big mansion or something like that, but it was very privileged in that it had warmth, and it had consideration, and it had consideration of each of the people there. Each of us, what do they call it? They watch your back, that kind of thing. And
but in this family,
so I was born in 1935. Yeah.
Okay. During the Depression.
Well, yeah.
And the beginnings of World War II.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But and there was only radio. There was no such thing as television. It didn't exist.
Did you, for instance, in television, besides watching the usual entertaining Amos and Andy's or whomever it was?
You want to talk about television? No,
radio.
Radio. Well,
did you have a particular attraction towards people discussing with other people? their lives or their news?
No, I don't.
Something that would rivet you to want to learn more about
no,
people?
I wasn't particularly given to it there like that and everything. I had a few. I liked.
Because I find your intensity is limitless in terms of your interest in people and all things that people seem to do.
It was privileged in the sense that, like my daddy was Ann Arbor, he'd been there, and my grandmother had been the first woman ever, way back in 1889 or so, 85, the first woman ever to be accepted and graduated as a doctor from the University of Michigan Medical College. Women weren't supposed to be doctors or dentists or professionals then, and she broke the glass ceiling. And I was told, I didn't get to know her really, really well, but she had a presence down on Trumbull Avenue in Detroit. We're all in Detroit, Michigan, and she died rather close to when I would be able to still have memories that could be remembered, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
But she had been like that, and she lived down there, and we in the house where we lived, the family, my father, mother, two of the best sisters in the history of the world, and I would say without fear of contradiction, the best dog in the history of the world that helped raise me. Ginger was the dog that was so wonderful. So it was a privileged upbringing. We had a fireplace and whatnot, and then we had on one side of there wasn't any television. Okay, just get that straight for a minute.
Did the family, were they readers?
Yes, of course, they were all intellectuals.
And they would share.
My mother was my father was a law.
Education was encouraged in your household?
Yes, of course, education and thinking and being smart and encouraging learning and all that sort of thing, and great camaraderie was there. And we had we had a fireplace, like something out of Dickens or something, I don't know. But on one side they had all the Harvard classics. Those are the classic books that were Harvard. And then on the other side of the thing, they had I forget what it was called. There was another series of classic writings that were there. I forget what that was called. I forget that. That had a lot of the writings, and we were encouraged to read and everything from there. And and learning and fun, and the environment was warm. I had great love and admiration and everything for my sisters and everything, and my mother was the best in the history, and we had a lady there who was part of our household.
Dinner table conversations were lively.
Yeah, we were talking and encouraging intellectual thought and everything like that. So it was a privileged background like that. It wasn't all fighting and doing things like there is in some backgrounds. I was very fortunate to have one, and so they were able to spoil me rotten. They were able to spoil me. They just spoiled me because I was the boy, and I was coming along, and I was the hope of the future of the intellectual carrier of the family and all of that. Do you understand? So I was worshipped, and the lady who took care of us, she would make food and stuff. She just spoiled the daylights out of me. Spoiled by giving me everything that I wanted, or whatever food or something. So I didn't have to do without, or there was none of that. That was in the 30s. That was 35. I was born, and that was Depression. But I guess we were lucky to be just okay. We weren't super wealthy or anything, but we were comfortable.
Harold, to the days of rude awakening, when you realized that not everybody was going to be out there spoiling you. That you did have to work, earn a living.
Well, I tried to avoid that. I tried to avoid having to do anything you didn't want to do. I don't think anybody should be encouraged to do things against what they want to do.
So you were encouraged to find your passion?
No, yes, but also to be able to be comfortable in there's a term, in your own skin, and be comfortable in what you were doing, and encouraged to do whatever you wanted to do. And it wasn't like where you have people that learn to do what you're supposed to do and gets whipped, into order and learn how to do what you're told and all of that. It was totally what would be called progressive. No, progressive, or they would just let you be, okay? Let you be. And that's what it was. And so I had the two sisters to beat up on me. They could beat up on me because I was smaller than them. And that would be a thing done. And but I had the dog for that dog was my dog, and everything. And so I had a privileged upbringing in terms of the early nuss. Now, talking about that, they used to have a radio, and they had a thing called the Mummer's Cave, and they had other kinds of it would be a little red dot in the light, and then there would be Amos and Andy, and they would have these programs that would be on the radio, and there was radio that you could hear. But you couldn't, there was no television. So television was a different matter. That was waiting down the line a bit. When I got into the university, and then I got drafted into the United States Army in the war in Korea. There was a war in Korea, and I was just a young man.
So that more or less was, which year was that?
That would have been about 1950, I guess, 1952, 3, something, 4, 5, something in through there. And I got drafted into the Army, which was sort of a rude awakening, because I was used to being what they would call being spoiled rotten. The lady who was my lady, she just thought I was the greatest thing that ever came down from the cosmos. And she had spoiled the daylights out of me.
And Harold,
I was totally spoiled and just self-centered. But no, that's wrong. I was just willing to allow everybody there to do what they wanted to do, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I could do that and everything, and I was good to do on my own. Now, when you get in the Army, it's a completely different proposition, and I was only a private. Right, that's the lowest in the ranks and that. You didn't
manage to get any lower?
No, it's as low as you can get. I was just there. And what they do is it's all structured. I mean, I had been spoiled. Do you understand? Now, they call it spoiled. What I was, I never had what they call a spanking or anything like that.
Now, Harold,
not even rough talk.
Now that we have established.
So that's my early beginning.
The genteel raising of.
I was spoiled rotten. What?
Now that we have established the gentility of your early years.
Yeah.
And now the rude awakening of your military career.
Yeah, that was a whole nother proposition, because they don't want to hear about how you want to stay in bed for another 20 minutes or something. My dog would have let me be staying in bed and put the covers over and all that. And none of that doing what you don't want to do, but what you must do. That's a work ethic thing that I despise. I have all my life. I think people ought to be able to do what they want. And I still believe in that, but the sergeants didn't want to hear that. And also, the sergeants were in high rank compared to me. I was a private, and that's the low one.
Now, as the lowest man on the totem pole, everybody did outrank you. Ergo.
Well, certainly, essentially, that's it. But then so they did with all the new recruits that were being recruited. And it was very surprising to them all, because they thought I was sort of a wise guy, a smarty pants.
So let us assume, Harold, you got an honorable discharge?
Economics and stuff. What?
We got an honorable discharge?
Yeah, I got an honorable discharge. In fact, I came out with medals and stuff.
Now,
because they bring you to, there was a thing called an M1 rifle. Everybody from my age group would know an M1 rifle. That was a rifle of all the men that were there. And they were all tough guys. And there were a lot of guys. You'd get out in the ranks, and it was cold down in the camp. They have you standing. It wasn't like what I liked. You're standing outside in the cold.
Chairs?
No. You're standing in rank. They call it in rank. So you got about 100 guys lined up, and they're all there. And you're standing outside in freezing cold weather. And they think it's good till you get to where you can really tough it through, and you're going to have to be tough to get there and get over the top of the thing. And I didn't want to get in, and everything like that. And I was there, and these guys down from Minnesota and stuff like that, and from that, they were really tough. they were really tough guys. They'd stand out there and what do you mean cold? It's only 30 below zero. What do you mean cold? Just take it, just tough it out, fella. Just tough it out and you'll be able to fight it out and you can be.
So you
and
developed a hardiness, a toughness.
Well, actually,
a will to survive under all conditions.
Well, it wasn't that so much as I
survived the army.
I think I became, because I was always in good spirits. No, I liked the thing. I was in good spirits. It wasn't like they would think I was just, no, but, oh, the thing, one of the things that got to me is they had an M1 rifle, and then they also had a thing called what do you call it? A thing where, I forget.
Scope?
No, it's a smaller rifle that you could fire.
A pistol.
And they had an M1 rifle, and you'd have to go out and shoot the rifle. And these guys were down, they used to shoot turkeys out of the trees. They were people that could really be tough. And they're all saying, well, this is nothing. It's only
Good
20
shots.
below zero. This is nothing. And all that. And they rather liked being able to withstand bad situations. I don't like
and
bad
they could hold a gun
physical
steadily
situations.
at
I like
30
warmth
below.
when it's cold and everything. I don't like to be hardy, But I would go, even then I didn't. I never did. And I would make jokes. And I guess I got over it by being funny. These guys would be really big and tough and all that. No, this is nothing. It's only 20 below zero for crying out loud. Up where I live, it gets a lot colder than this here, I'll tell you that, young man, and all that kind of talk. And you can put up with it, and you can learn to take it and everything. But you know what happened? You know what happened?
What'd you do to
I
them?
became the stop guy on the range with the M1. I was the top one. All these guys were shooting turkeys out of trees. And, in their own background.
You could hit a bullseye at
No, I was
100
really
yards.
good. I had the top score. And I'm a kid. I'm a smart-ass college kid. And if you were a college kid, God, that was death. Because these were all guys from the ranks and everything. And I did that. And they said, what do you mean Channer's number one? They couldn't believe it. I was number one. So I was able to milk that for some time and everything like that. But I used to complain. You're standing outside in the cold, and these guys are inside the barracks. They got a big roaring fire going, and they're all around the guys that are already the lieutenants and whatnot, and they're all out there
sitting
comfortable.
around in their dog
and I used to
tents.
complain like a son of a bitch. I say, what the hell? They're standing in there, and it's freezing, and you're not supposed to talk that way. You're supposed to say, so I wasn't very good as a soldier. But the television, since there wasn't any television at that time.
So are you?
And I had to get in the army, and I had to go in the army, and
when you complained about
and I happened to be really good with the rifle.
Harold, if I heard properly,
You had to crawl through the mud. You're supposed to learn how to crawl through mud.
If I heard properly from you at one time, you must have protested hard the 30-degree weather because didn't they ship you to Puerto Rico?
Well, I got sent to Puerto Rico to the 65th Infantry Battalion. Artillery, whatever. Yeah, I got sent to Puerto Rico, and I was good. That was great. I could take. It was warm. It's warm all the time, and Puerto Rico is beautiful. And Puerto Rico
had beaches and swimming pools.
Yes, and we had a camp, and I got to be in camp.
And on Rico rum.
And the camp was and it just happened to be that the camp that I got assigned to was for people who know Puerto Rico. It was what was the town? Calle. It's about 30 miles outside of the capital, and it had been a camp for all Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans had come into the American Union around the turn of the century, and they got an unusual relationship to the military. But we were like, they had a thing. I don't want to go into it because it's a long thing about the movie with Humphrey Bogart was in, where the captain of a ship was a bad rap thing, and the men mutinied. I had mutiny in the mine, but that was because I didn't like cleaning out. I didn't have mutiny in the mine. No, I was able to take it. I was able to take clean. And you had what they called KP. I had to do KP a couple times, and I tell you, I wanted to cry. It was so hard. It was the work was so hard. I was just tuckered out, poor little fellow, at the end of the KP.
And these
they
are the
just say,
hard lessons you have
Yeah,
learned.
and the guys were all tough, and I got along okay with the tough guys, all right, and everything. But then they had a golf course. They had a golf course on this camp. What was it called again? Cahiers. It was the 65th Regiment, and that was given an honor, and I got an honor as part of the Fighting 65th, and we got a medal from Mr. Obama for having been part of the 65th. And they had brought in all Continentals to this whole base, where you got you got quarters, and you got this. And they had a golf course, and they had a swimming pool where you could do that and everything. And I got on that, and what I did is they have what they call duty. You have to do things like everything, like Costello, Abbott and Costello kind of movies and everything. But you have to do things, and see, I haven't gotten yet to the point in my life where I could start doing television. You want to be involved with television? There wasn't no such thing as television.
What I'm trying to get through too is that you're working up in life's little ups and downs. And
and I'm reading James Joyce and all kinds of things, and they're reading different kinds of books mostly.
But you go on to start a family, I believe?
No, that's too soon. That's too soon. I hadn't started a family yet. No. It was after I got out of the Army that I met my lady love, that. But that's another part. But I got, and as a matter of fact,
but yet I'm trying to get to you.
The captain was all in favor of things, and they had learned their lesson, having done a bad thing what they call a bad rap, in the military. If you're given bad discipline for something that it wasn't legitimate, there was a bad rap. And a guy that had a bad rap, he played Captain Quigg in the movie, anyway. And so they had a swimming pool, and the guy said, "Okay, you are going to," and I could swim. I was athletic. I was always athletic and everything, and not great. I wasn't breaking. I wasn't big, and all that. But I was a good swimmer. I could swim good, and the crawl. And there was a swimming pool, and they said, "Okay, we're going to make a team for the regimental team." And they had a swimming pool, and so it came up. There were 5 of us got on the team.
Okay.
Got on the team. There was a guy. One guy was from France. We called him Frenchie because he was from France. He could swim. Oh, and the captain, the fellow who headed the whole battalion, he had said, "Okay, we want to have a swimming team so you can compete with other units here in the Antilles for the swimming team and be athletic and everything." And we got 5 guys there, and we were all foul-ups. I use a stronger word sometimes, but we were all foul-ups. And the only reason we took the job or took the duty, and it was reported, "You will report to the swimming pool on your own recognizance, which I like the idea of on your own recognizance. I would like to have everybody doing things on their own recognizance. I would like it if everybody was free to do what it is they want to do and everything, but that's an idealism that's but anyway, we got 5 guys on the team, and we ended up with one guy from France. He could swim like a porpoise, and he was Frenchy. He was called, we were 19 years old or something, and we won. We fought against Ramey Field, which was a SAC base at the end of Puerto Rico, out at Ramey Field. That's where they had the big B-59s that were going and dropping atomic bombs on people all over the place and everything. Extension of American power that was very... Anyway, and by a hair's breadth, we, the bad guys, we were foul-ups. I could use a stronger word. All 5 of us, we would do nothing but sit around the swimming pool, drink beer, and play poker. And we didn't take part in the thing, anything at all. So I got that. So I got through that, and then I got into university. When I got out of the university, out of college, and I went to the college, and I got degrees and stuff. And then that got to be into the period where there was television in my life. Television entered into the life after I got to be about 25, 23 or 24 years old. And television was invented and coming into the environment.
And you had become a professor by that time?
I became kind of quickly. I became a professor quite quickly because I was I was smart.
More or less about what
and
year?
I could, pardon?
How many years after?
Not very long. I mean, I went out and I got involved in the university and everything, and in the anti-Vietnam War, and that kind. I was very much against that war. I remember that and everything. But I got in. I guess I was like smart.
How many years did you teach, Harold?
Well, that's kind of insufficient for me to be real because there were 5 quick universities where I was. I wanted to get the feel for the country, so I had a university in California, one in other parts where I taught.
Utah?
And I did what was I forget what they call it, but you're getting some training, and you're also you're in the university like freshman, sophomore, freshman, and all that. And I raised quickly in the ranks at universities where I was done. I was recognized as smart, and that usually is not recognized in the Army. What's recognized is you'll do what you're told. That's usually good, but I wasn't. But I got away with it, partly through being a wise guy, I'd have to say, partly being avoiding the sergeants and all that. I was an enlisted man. I was not an officer at all, ever. I was just an enlisted man. But I was in there, and then I got into university and got a PhD and stuff, and then I was teaching at universities. And it was then that I first got into being into television. And I was always reading, and I was always self-directed. I don't like people telling me what to do. I like to do what it is that I'm into doing. Do you understand? I'm self-directed. So that's the thing. Some people want to be told what to do.
Didactic.
Yeah, autodidact. Yeah, autodidactic. I was that way, yeah. So then came the television, and then there came...
More or less, what year was that?
I'd be 54, 55, 56, in through there, where television was being introduced into the society. He had only a radio, and I got an honorable discharge and everything, and I got out university, teaching university.
Were you still listening to radio as much?
No, I never listened to radio. I used to listen to radio a little bit. They had Jack Arms, they had a thing, maybe some of the older folks might remember. Jack Armstrong, the all-American boy.
But tell me, but your choices of when you would listen.
What? Yeah.
When you were listening to the radio,
well, you're submitted,
or if you did you read newspapers?
Yes. Read books and newspapers, and followed the news, and got involved in the anti-Vietnam demonstrations, and being a pain in the neck for the people who are running the establishment, become anti-American in their attitude, really angry at what took place in Korea.
Do you remember
in our name?
Do you remember?
But the television came in then.
No, in terms of your interest in the human condition, human affairs.
All along.
Political affairs.
Yeah.
Economic and social interchanges in terms of the economy and the price of bread. Did that really come to you all at once, or was it something?
No,
you
it was
always.
It's called being intellectually curious. That's all, and being allowed to be able to follow your own lead. And that's a really good guide for people, but people are all trying to boss other people around.
No, and you did this on your own.
Yeah,
what you would gravitate towards.
Well, I got in the Army. That's pretty well institutionalized by the United States government, and then I got into universities all across the country and everything, and that's part of an educational system and a system of learning and so forth. It's part of the...
But also institutionalized, would you say?
Yeah, and I lost being all thought about that because what I did is I could get in touch with people who were intellectuals and interested in the broader issues of everything.
So you actually, in those formative years, let us say, actually sought other people's out that
Of course,
would fill the voids.
even you would do what is good is smart people. You like to be, more or less with smart people, and it's just in general.
So
that's
you
what
didn't
happens.
give up on the human race. You
Of course, never. But I don't like authoritarianism, and that's the way many of the institutions are set up. There's an efficiency in that. But then you're talking about television. There came to be television when I got home. I would get back to that home on leave or something, and then I got to be in the university, and then Betty, that was the woman who was there used to be a term that people might recognize. I think I used it earlier, spoiled me rotten.
Okay.
Because she really took care of me, and
So when you got back
she
from
was
the
really
army,
interested in my being able to pursue. What do you mean they make you get up at 8 in the morning? That's not fair, is it now? And no, and she probably helped corrupt me, away from being part of an authoritarian context.
Well, I believe I heard rumor, Harold, that didn't she teach you how to play craps?
She did. She taught me how to shoot craps. Yeah.
Read the racing form?
Yes, and to read the racing form on those important endeavors of
this
education.
This lovely little grandma-esque type woman?
Yeah, she did. And said, come out. She liked to gamble.
So she
liked
you
to
out
gamble. Yeah,
to the bookies?
She would take me out to the racetrack sometimes with the horses, So she's trying to give me an education of something other than just being a person that follows the orders, And so anyway, but the television came about when I got back, and then it started coming in, and so it got more and more.
Do you remember the first program you ever saw on television?
I do not. No, I can't remember.
The second one?
No, I can't. I can't. It all came sort of by osmosis almost. It was just coming into the society generally and to the world. It was just developing.
Do you remember your first news commentator? Let's say Edward R. Murrow or...
I remember Murrow. I think and then there were commentators, but you had the radio. You used to have the radio too. And there was a radio comment and everything. So you would follow the people, and that's when you started getting people who could make analysis of what's going on other than a propagandistic thing like many people in the establishment want the people to be. Easy to direct, to go over the top when they're going to get shot or something like that. The people who want people to be malleable, to be taking orders. And that's the thing that it was in the military. I guess you have to have it.
You weren't in the military, if I may ask, during the McCarthy trials?
No, I don't remember where McCarthy fit into that. It was
early 50s.
Yeah. At the time, there was that going on. Yeah. And then it started being, you start picking up from the literature, and so you start finding being associated with smarter people and everything, and then you just get, you become a professor, and then I got very entranced by television because it was the new medium of expression, and so I got very interested. It was relatively soon after I got out of the military.
Have you been involved in radio in terms of?
No.
Radio broadcasting?
No, nothing, no. I didn't know how to make a radio work or anything. Oh, I still don't know very well that.
Then why television suddenly?
Well, it just came on the scene, if I remember. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be evasive, but it just all of a sudden was there, everywhere it seems. It just came all at once in the 50s and 60s, and television became the way that was going to signal the overcoming of the literate age, the reading. Reading was going to be overcome. It was going to become electronic communication. And that was something that intrigued me because I remember I was very interested in that. And you were going to have multimedia. And you were going to have multimedia communication as a way of taking intellectually what's going on in your life.
You saw
To have
that
multimedia
back in the 1950s after.
Yeah, I would. Well, I'm guessing now. So yeah, it's like everybody just got introduced into it. Like out of the army, the late '50s or so. Yeah, I was taking interest in television as a source of information, and some of the better minds were beginning to appear on television. Okay, more than the radio. The radio became something for people who like to be told what to do. You know, a lot of people want to be told what to do and, you know, be compliant. That's maybe overdone, but it was around then that they had started having really what would be good television programming going on that got to be becoming the order of the day, really. And then it just galloped into the 50s and 60s. And now there's nothing but television.
Do you remember
Or
when
multimedia has now come with all the stuff we have here and everything.
For instance, Harold, right now you can go 24/7 on the television right now and watch nothing but news.
Well, I guess you got 1,998 channels. I mean, you got a lot of choice, you know.
Yeah, with cable television.
You didn't have that at the beginning. There were just a few, and it was unique.
But there were 13 channels.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I
and
think
you had
so.
Your dial
Channel 12. I think the first thing we did here at MNN, that was part of my life. I got involved and came to New York, and got involved pretty early on, I guess, with the Manhattan Network when it was only a dream in the eyes of some in the eye of some people that were putting it together, and it was thought of as. And then I got involved with a lot of people. Like I went and then I found it was a way in which I could gather information that became there were place outlets for it. So then I started going to take programs myself by taking a camera and doing a program with somebody and then putting it on a television station as a way not of books, not of reading books or writing papers, but of television, multimedia as a way of educating myself and the world.
Excuse me, roll that one back. You did it with what kind of at what point did you pick up a camera?
I'm not sure, but maybe coming out of I picked it up pretty quick out of the army and everything. What it was is it picked me up because it
You
started.
actually got a moving camera in the army?
No, I didn't. I didn't, as a matter of fact. But there were not a movie. It was a video camera. They had all these video cameras. They had little ones and big ones and all kinds of things. And it was coming on strong as we were entering the television age that was coming in.
These were not cameras, you know, with film, like you would use.
Gosh, don't help me. There was let me say a half-inch. Okay, that's the thing for people in the environment.
This was half-inch film.
It was
not
a tape. It was tape, and it had a half-inch thing, and you would put it in to the machine, and that you'd start recording. And the tape would move through and record on the tape what it is that you were pointing the camera at. So and you could do that with people talking or a beautiful sunset or whatever. It was putting new capability for people to create their own environment. And I found that intriguing. And it was also, since I think I was very badly influenced by some of the military excursions of the United States Army. It seemed to me they were marching all over the world in big league boots and bombing the bejesus out of everybody all over the place. And I think I began to lose faith in the United States system and became a radically inclined person in terms of the media, a use of the media to show the villainy of what the United States was doing around the world. And that was something I got very involved in a sense on the use of the media in a negative way toward the society. You know, the society in general.
I don't understand that.
Well, they were going all over the world killing people. They were going all over the world bombing the bejesus out of people.
But why would that be a negative side to media? Wouldn't that be
No, that was being done by military organizations that represented the government.
Yes, but
and
they were
represented the country.
They were using that video for a
Did you see what they did in Vietnam? They killed people by the thousands, mowed them down. I was very,
Yes.
very disgusted with what my country was doing. I became very, very upset with them. And they're saying it's all in the name of justice and everything. And they didn't have a system of understanding the broader world much that was very, very affirmative. They'd have all these talking heads talking about, well, we got to do it because we have the truth and justice of all the world and everything. So I became interested in media as a way of getting programs with people who were protesting. It would be called the protest movement. Okay.
So you were still, as a professor at university.
Yeah, I would be a
and
professor.
you got yourself a video cam.
Well, everybody got a video cam. I mean, it became to be, although that's a jumping a bit. It was a little bit of a jump to get a camera, but you had to go and press the envelope a little bit to try and get a camera, particularly against the government, which was trying to
protect yourself against getting a camera or shooting.
No,
with a camera?
protected against the government. They put people in prison for being not loyal. And they killed people en masse in the name of the United States government.
What does that have to do with the camera, though?
No. Well, there was camera vision. There was some camera activity around those activities, and that began to be a place by which you could bring. People would say, our country would never do that. We represent good and light and everything in the world, and you put on a camera with pictures and everything like that, and people could get a picture real rather than what the system was trying to impose upon them, in terms of saying we're good and light and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but
so it was being opposed to your government.
Yes, but Harold,
which is a little difficult.
Since the moving camera started, you've been having
not moving camera. The video was different. Video was different.
But the concept of having newscasters going around the world with their, tripods with the wooden cameras, and filming wars.
Well, yeah. Well, there was lots of those people just reporting. That would be just like a job. You become a reporter and you report what's going on. They're mowing down another 100 people over here and another 100 over here. But it's reporting the news, but with television. The television had been entered. It had come into the picture, and then it got down to where even every citizen finally got down to where they could have a little camera where they could record what's going on. And it could be used to show the injustices that there were being advanced by the government in place.
How about
of the United States?
The direct competition of having an amateur picture video camcorder taking the same footage, taking the same scene with its own footage versus a government or a paid reporter taking its own, where they will edit it for the newsreels, particularly towards a certain bent, versus quote unquote what the true picture is.
Well, there was a lot of that. Just good reporting of the reports of things that went place. And it's not right to say everything was being bad by them. There were a lot of good, and a lot of people were being beaten in battle and everything, and the people deserved to be beaten. And the United States was doing some good stuff and everything going on. Yeah, but there was some of that, obviously. Yeah. But it wasn't the pattern.
What I'm feeling from what you're saying right now is that at that moment in time in your life, a passion started for you to go more towards the recording of events, people's, delving into stories.
That's right. And it was
as
also
opposed to being in a classroom.
Yeah, it would have to be that. I became more and more.
Did you
I personally closed down the University of California all by myself against Ronald Reagan up in Sacramento. He was in charge of the whole university, and I closed the university down against what was going on in Vietnam. I mean, I had a lot of other people. Well, we stopped it, but that doesn't make you popular among the faculty in that.
Did that have consequences?
Well, you lost your job, that kind of stuff. That happened. You'd lose your job, and you're supposed to be a loyal American and all that.
And were you incarcerated? Go to trial?
Yes, I've been incarcerated. I was
For that?
at a few of the little jails around the country. You know, not very much. No, I didn't get incarcerated that much. There were a lot of people who just made a thing out of being incarcerated.
But
there was
such
so much.
incidences
But, you know,
inspired you more?
Who was it? Abby Hoffman, you dear friend, and those people. There was a whole movement against the United States for what they were doing around the world, and then it was being recorded, and it became pretty soon. It wasn't down trying to get a book or something about it. Book is you could read it. It was a videotape. And the way in which the propaganda, either side, to support the government or to indoctrinate the population, whatever way you want to call it, it became video was the major way in which the population was influenced.
And told the quote-unquote real truth.
Well, the real truth is seen in the eye of the beholder. The people, no, there were lots of good people who believed and completely in the United States, could do no wrong. They're perfectly and I would like to have believed that. I had a great faith in the country, but it was just being torn apart. And then it began to be brought back into the students. The students at the universities, they're 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old students. They're not going to sit by and they watch people being slaughtered as they were being done. That thing that went on in Vietnam was disgusting. There was a lot of disgusting stuff that went on, and the video tape that was shot by a lot of the fellows out, like who's our dear friend that used to live below us?
Philip Jones
Griffith. He was a major, and that thing of his, of a group of people who lived in the fields, in the slogging, and doing it, and made video copy documentaries about the terrible things that were being done by the United States in the name of some sort of crazy thinking about some ideological thing about the way the world is operating. Yeah, and his thing, what was it called now? That thing he did. He had a, yeah. There were a lot. In fact, Orange and Orange. Yeah, that was used. And that was used against it.
Vietnam Inc. was his.
Yeah, Vietnam. Book. Yeah. But then what it is a general apathy. No, a general lack of attention to the legitimacy of the established order. So we have a thing here, and this was started by a bunch of rebels. This MNN was started by, it wasn't started by a bunch of people who were ready to go out and slay the black people and all the rest of the things that were going on and all the injustices that there are and all of that. So there became a movement about, across the nation of anti-system. And then the people who were usually it was what they call right-wing. That's usually like Republicans and stuff. They would be supporters of the country, my country, right or wrong, but mostly right, and they're always right, and that kind of thing. And that was a thing. So the television was used by people who were trying to stop the injustice, as it was seen, and then by the people who were trying to inculcate the people with a feeling that that was perfectly right in the American way.
Harold,
and had to be protected.
For a moment, I had the privilege several years ago of meeting one of the great founders of MNN and cable broadcast, a man named George Stoney.
Oh, George Stoney was gorgeous, gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely.
He started this place largely, MNN.
And he was also Professor Emeritus at NYU.
Absolutely. Major guy.
A tremendous
beautiful human being. Made a lot of things up in the tundra and stuff.
But my first talk with George, I met him at
he was a gorgeous guy.
I met him at a restaurant with ACAP members who were meeting to
ACAP
share.
was a thing we started.
Yes.
Association of Cable Access Producers. We started an organization of people, all of which were against the system. by and large.
Well, George Stoney, I didn't know him. I had not been introduced to him. I had the great good fortune of sitting across from him.
Yeah, that is
at
good
the table.
fortune. He was a beautiful
and
guy.
Him and I just got to talking. And
Okay.
it went straight to World War II. And
No, don't think about it. No, is it? Are we still got time? How much? I got
Rapid.
10 minutes.
Continue talking.
Okay, continue. Okay.
and
Okay.
George Stoney told me what he had done during World War II.
Well, yeah.
And he said,
That was a different proposition.
no, it wasn't.
Well, it
actually.
was. The Nazis were not anything to be
Bobble,
giving support
bobble.
to.
No. I took pictures from an airplane.
Uh-huh.
And one of my job was to interpret what those pictures were saying when they were developed.
Uh-huh. And you still film.
And from these still photographs.
That's part of the media.
And my job was to find out what the truth was that was laying underneath the ground for our troops to then take positions and
in which
maneuvers.
war are you talking about?
George Stoney was in the World War II in the European theater.
Well, World War II was a little bit different thing, I think.
No, I'm talking, for a reason.
World War
And
II
so
was against
George
the Nazis.
Stoney and I talked about the importance of capturing truth, which can be discerned in film.
Oh, okay.
That's what his job was to find the truth in the celluloid.
Oh, I see. Yeah, right. Yeah,
And
he
so
was, yeah.
went
You're
on-
right, yeah.
He went on to cut his career making independent film documentaries. And
Yeah.
in his philosophy,
He did. Nanook of the North. Yeah.
his philosophy was
Great
that
film.
the photographer gets into the scene where the subjects are and lives almost like a fly on the wall
Well,
and documents.
that's great
what-
dedication to do that.
Well,
particularly,
many
to
of
show
his films showed just that.
Yeah, the injustices. There are a lot of them in the South with blacks and stuff.
He wasn't there to judge. He was there to show their life.
Okay.
And the
oh,
viewer,
I know. Yeah,
and
yeah.
the viewer was there to interpret what it was, to discern the truth of the footage that he took.
Okay, that's true. That was part of his commitment. Yeah.
Very
But he
much
also
so.
was on the side of justice.
And so, further talks with George later in his life, and still, I think he was a retired professor from NYU at that time,
Maybe.
closer
yeah.
to
He's getting into
towards
his 90s.
towards
yeah.
his death.
Uh-huh.
He was saying how disappointed he was with the kids that were coming through film school, because all they wanted to
Looking
know
for a gig.
was how to get an A so they can graduate and they can
God,
become
yes.
introduced into the big studios and be
And
able
make
to
money.
make money.
Yeah, it just
Off a film
it
career.
just became right.
And
right.
he said,
We've had talks with George along those lines. Yeah.
George said they were no longer interested, really, in
No.
going to the meat of the issue
No,
and
they just
doing the
wanted-
work that would be required in order to gain it.
It was just a way to
The
get
quick
money.
fix and the quick shot to stardom was more important than the essence of what taking a picture was
Well,
all
as
about
everything
in his
became
mind.
everything became money
But-
increasingly.
And
where there
with
was
George
no
Stoney also, as with the philosophy of cable access TV, it is free and it is the voice of the people.
Well, yeah, but that was put together by people who had a different
But it's still
take
supposed
on
to
the
be the
society
voice
than
of
the establishment.
No, it's still to be the voice of the people. You can come here to MNN or the other cable networks here in New York, Greater New York,
Well, yeah, but okay.
and present your view, your show, unedited,
Yeah.
unrehearsed,
Yeah.
uncensored.
That's what it was at the beginning. It really was, and I guess it still is in
It
a way.
still
yeah,
is.
yeah, right. But
Look at yours, nobody censors your shows.
I can't hear you. What?
I said, look at your shows, nobody censors them yet.
No, they haven't. I've done a lot of things that were radical.
No, but let
Yeah.
us go back to the main question I wanted to explore with you.
Yeah.
And that is, your passion to not only have decided this is what you want, but that it has kept you running on high octane, for 45 years.
Well, the
in front of the
injustices
camera.
march on. The injustices march on. Yeah, we haven't got there yet. We got really, and the educational thing. Education has become a way in which you get a certificate to make money. Everything has become so involved with money that it's just corrupting everything, as far as I can see. It seems that way. And you can't. What do you mean you're going to do something because that's the right thing to do? What's the intake? What's the how much can I get out of it? It's corrupted things to an incredible degree. The lucre, the fame, the desire for lucre, and that's how things are. And they've got all these systems. They got all these systems that are coming now, which are like our friend, the guy.
Which one?
Oh yeah, we got these. The guy that's working with the big deal now. What's his name?
Which big deal?
With that Wolf? No.
Trump?
No, the filmmaker, the famous one, and the one who's written about 1,000 books that are all really good and everything. He's my dear friend, and he's working with the people in the video.
Spectre? 2 minutes.
Oh, 2 minutes only. No.
Danny said.
No, what's the guy? That's crazy. Howard Bloom.
Howard Bloom.
Howard Bloom is working with these guys that are the leading people, which is all the things that are coming in a major transformative way. The technology is coming exponentially, changing everything. It's just becoming into a completely different kind of world we're coming into.
But will that change truth?
Will that what?
Will that change truth?
Well, it has the possibility.
Or will that just show a different lens with which to explore the layers of truth?
Well, it will be the largest people.
In contrariness to cover the
they've
layers
got
of
all
truth.
the big guys, the really big guys that are doing everything with the media distribution and everything on this system that he is helping them present a thing for. So it's Time Warner and all the major big people who are creating the environmental condition, and he's helping them put a thing together to let it be used for good. It could be used for good. The system could become a thing for liberation of the human society. There is a possibility of that, and that's what he's working in terms of. He's helping them put a thing together now. So
Yes.
It may be the media is going to be the greatest liberator of things, and it's just been a terrible, like when you ever have a baby? You have a baby, it's a lot of pain, but the baby's wonderful.
Okay,
so there's
Harold.
a baby coming, and the pain is awful, what we're going through now, but there may be a positive way of seeing the world.
As with your career
and we've
also,
got to
Harold,
do something else. When the director of the thing, that's the real power. That's the real power, is the director of anything, as giving you signals. Thank you for having asked me all these questions and so forth. And we're running out of time. And that's one of the tyrannies of time with television. Thank you, darling. And thank you, Josie Ann extraordinaire. Okay.
And thank you, Harold.
My pleasure. Okay.